Hello, hello. It's a pleasure to see you again today. Namaste, namaste. We are going to talk about an essential notion that brings together everything I mentioned on different videos already. But in this video, I wanted to take again the concepts which are essential and transversal in the concept of fasting, and in particular the concept of metabolism, because it is a concept which is essential and often misunderstood. So I would like to agree on some definitions, some meanings. What is fasting? Fasting is the voluntary deprivation of food, the fact of not eating at a time when we should have eaten. And beside, it is interesting because medically speaking, the fasting begins 6 hours after the last meal. So from a psychological point of view, when you talk about fasting, and I say that because in the comment I saw a lot of people who said to me, but intermittent fasting is usurped as a name. We must not speak of fasting if you are not fasting for several days. It is because you do not have the courage to fast for several days. It is because you are not at the level. It is shameful to talk about fasting in this case of intermittent fasting. No, the intermittent fasting is fasting. From the moment you avoid a meal, it's fast. It's to fast. The arrogance of the specialist of long fasting has no place to be here. It is a fasting. And beside, the good manifestation of this is that people, even if they do what is called intermittent fasting and supposedly not fasting by specialists, and do lose weight and they have a boost hormonal, they have all the characteristics one would expect in fasting. There is, of course, a real fundamental difference between short fasting and long fasting. Short fasting and intermittent fasting are part of fasting, but it is a fasting as such, and we take advantage of the benefits of the fasting when, for example, we skip breakfast. So yes, we take advantage of the benefits of the fasting, then of course to a lesser extent than if you do a day or 2 fasting day. There you are really in the quintessence of the fasting. You really have the hormonal and boost side nervous of the metabolism. But now there is no exclusion criterion. I was sometimes shocked by certain remarks which really put level of value in the capacity of people to fast that does not exist in any case in my conception of things. And it also depends on your Ayurvedic constitution. Not everyone can fast. This is also a very important point. So, what is metabolism? Since we are going to talk about metabolism, metabolism is the amount of energy that the body consumes at a given time. You could tell me how important. If it matters a lot, because this amount of energy that the body is going to consume will determine what you manifest on the outside, and will determine if you feel hot or if you feel cold. If you have a high metabolism, you will feel hot. If your metabolism is lower, you will feel cold. If your metabolism is high, you are going to have a lot of energy. You are going to have the urge. I would say, in a way, assuming that it is when we want that we can do, and not the reverse. So since you have the energy available, you will see that you are going to be inclined to do things and to want to do. Conversely, if you have a metabolism that is slowing down, you will be slowed down, rather depressed, rather cautious, rather passive. And then if you have a slower metabolism, you gain weight because you do not use the food resource that you consume. While if you have a high metabolism, On the contrary, you will tend to lose weight in any case and lose fat mass. With a slower metabolism, you gain fat because you are always talking about, in a slower metabolism, you gain fat because we always talk about weight. This is not an interesting value because you can weight heavy and be lean, have a very low fat mass and be just muscle. And at that point you are going to have a very high metabolism with a lot of energy. So the question is really what determines the metabolism. So what determines the metabolism? Often when you look at study on metabolism, we tend to consider that metabolism is what determines the amount of calorie resources. Food that we will have access to eat at any given time. In truth, it is very limited as a definition because there are two parameters to consider. It is the quantity of available resources and the capacity of the body to take hold of them, and that is something that is often absent from all our thinking. We have the impression that the body is a machine and we really have a mechanical vision of living things. The living is not mechanism. The living is alive. That is to say that if you bring a maximum of energy to a dead person, you will not trade his metabolism, right? So there is a hormonal and nervous parameter in the capacity of the body to use the energy given to eat at any given time. So it is often said that advancement in age, for example, exhaustion, leads to a drop in metabolism. That is to say that ultimately the exhaustion of nervous and hormonal parameters as well as advancement in age, which correspond to nervous exhaustion and leads to a drop in metabolism. Whereas what exactly leads to a drop in metabolism, and which means that on a daily basis you do not have a lot of overflowing energy which is available to you, is that there are two parameters, nervous and hormonal parameters. Exhaustion, stress, these are essential factors in the decrease of the metabolism. That is to say that you can take food if you are exhausted, stressed, and your nervous and hormonal system does not allow the use of these products. For example, a gland which is essential, really essential, is the thyroid gland, which regulates the metabolism. The thyroid gland allows the use of oxygen at the level of the cell, so as to burn the products that we consume. If the thyroid gland does not produce enough hormones, you may have enough food, it will not work, it will not burn. So exhaustion, chronic stress, these are really the two factors that harm our metabolism. And there is another one which is very important, is the too frequent meal. Why? Because finally, each time you consume one meal, it is necessary to understand that there is a hormone which is a key in the organism, which is called insulin. It is a hormone that sends a message to the body to store, and when the insulin level is high, the body is in storage mode. And as soon the insulin levels decrease, we are in destocking mode. So each once you take a food intake, what is going well, there is an insulin spike and the body goes into storage mode. So very frequent food intake keeps the body in the storage position and not in the use position. It is a little like two fridge you have an outside fridge. It is your house fridge in which you have a lot of food, and then you have an indoor fridge, a fridge that you take with you, with your belly and your little handles love. So your internal fridge is your reserve of fat mass. Normally, this internal fridge is there to finally allow you, if the outside fridge is empty, and if you do not have access to food, to have a fridge which is full and on which you can use, and given the amount of fat that we talk around on a daily basis. So we can say that each of us, we still have a fairly colossal energy reserve available. What causes us not to access to it? What makes us hungry? We feel cold as soon as we turn off the outside fridge. What is in about it that we have on a daily basis no access to this unlimited energy reserve? These are because of high insulin level. That chronically is to say that you are going to be to have your outside fridge which begin to decrease. You have spent a few hours after the last meal. You have your internal fridge which is full, which keep filling up because each time you consume a meal, you put a little bit aside, and yet you will not have access to your internal fridge. You are limp, you are slowed down, you are cautious on a low psychological level, you do not have the energy to go with it, and you gain weight. What is the key that determines this balance and the fact that you cannot access your internal fridge is the amount of insulin. The amount of insulin circulating, and people who eat too regularly during the day have insulin level chronically high, and it doesn't work. So the key will be to be able to access this inner energy, because from the moment you can use an abundant energy resource, and in addition you have a nervous and hormonal system that allows you to do it, that is to say that you have a nervous and hormonal system that has enough energy to allow you to access to it and use that energy. So at that point there is no problem. It should be understood that when we talk about lower metabolism and therefore weight gain, we often talk in terms of restrictive diets. The more you the more you lower your amount daily of food, the more the more your metabolism will adapt. Especially if you have high level insulin, and that is still chronically high. That is to say that the more you take a small outdoor fridge and you tell yourself, I will reduce my outdoor fridge in order to gain less weight, so you reduce the size of your outdoor fridge, which decreases the size of your fridge. So your body adapts, and your body will say to itself, oh my, but there are less and less, or this is a moment it is a little bit difficult, so I decrease my expenses. I decrease the expenses, and beside, the one of the best way to lower the metabolism is to go on restrictive diet. So the more you reduce your external intake, and the more you constantly eat small, tiny amounts, the more, well, eventually you see your metabolism going down, because you do not have access to internal reserves, because you expect your system to eat ceaselessly, because your metabolism adapts to low quantities of external products without having the possibility of using the internal stocks. So that if you eat constantly and if you reduce your diet conversely, you have to understand that if you cut your diet, what happens if you start fasting? There are two things which are done concomitantly. Firstly, drop in insulin level, and in insulin level, this tell your body, look, you have a fridge that is inside, and you can dispose of it, and you can use it abundantly. Second, adrenaline boost, or noradrenaline, ghrelin, leptin, as many hormones which favors the food intake, which favors the use of the product all at once, and you will start to use this abundance and you increase the metabolism. And therefore, what is the best way to have energy is to increase your metabolism on a daily basis and to lose weight. It is to do the opposite of what led us to lose energy, to gain weight, and not to have a good metabolism, and what drives us to exhaustion, too much meal, and you reverse your insulin level and it will work. I hear that the person who are fasting lower their metabolism. So if you can pretend that kind of thing, just I would say rely on evidence. Psychologically and experimentally speaking, it is not insightful when we see an increase in metabolism in all people who are doing fasting. But when too long fasting is happening a certain time, there is a nervous and hormonal exhaustion, which makes that the metabolism could drop. But in the cases of short, medium, or intermittent fasting, a fortiori, there is never a drop in metabolism, on the contrary. It must be understood that as soon as we cut off the external supply, the body goes into panic mode. It will look for energy. It will seek energy from the exterior, and at the same time, it draws on its interior resources to seek energy from the exterior. This panic mode, in quotes, is an intense one-time stress mode which corresponds perfectly to what has been defined as the law of Hermes, which will improve the capacity of the organism. So the fasting does not lower the metabolism, it gives access to hyper-abundant resource. So the fasting does not lower metabolism. The fasting also makes them lose weight by losing fat mass and by raising the metabolism, and especially by upgrading provision of a colossal energy resource. So there are people who say yes, but even when I am fasting, I find myself exhausted. Realize that if you have a system that is completely congested, full of toxin, that is completely exhausted on a daily basis, in which there is no cleansing mechanism going on, the day you have energy in abundance, this energy is sent into the mechanism of detoxification, cleansing, and elimination. It is a priority of the body at this time. It may happen that for a while you do not manifest this energy, but anyone fasting regularly, if at first they have a low energy because it pulls, because it pumps, and because it cleans quickly, when the cleaning is done, it will discover that in daily basis as colossal energy will come back. So first time you have, when you are fasting, of course you can feel exhausted, but because your body is full of toxin and is cleansing, so just give you some time to do this process, and after you will see that when you are fasting you will have a big amount of energy. So the people who practice the intermittent fasting must testify all to that. One of the things that really lower your metabolism also is water. It is the water intake amount. You can say to me, yes, but if I tap or search on internet an increased amount of water equal to an increase rate of metabolism. The thing is that we give absolute dietary recommendation to all people. People who have diets, lifestyle which are totally different, but also have different physiology. For people who have a fairly dry diet, it is advisable to increase the amount of water. Will go in the right direction. It is obvious. But for people who are already on a diet on fruits and vegetables, will increase the quantity of water and therefore go in the wrong direction, and beside the experience, you simply do it. Try and you will see how your body is speaking. Try it in the early morning when you see this video, drink a liter and half of water and see how you feel. See if you are more cautious, see if you have more energy, or inversely. Because all these theory are all well and good, but experimentation is also better. And therefore you will see that there are chances if you watch this video, which is rather with the thyroid profile that you already have in your diet, enough fruit and vegetable. So you have too much water, then there is a chance that you are already drinking too much water, and that this recommendation of 1.5 liter of water per day is completely inadequate, and for most people it is completely too much. Why? Because it's a general recommendation. It's not made for your unique type, your unique physiology. And we drink too much water, so it only depletes the system, it dilutes the blood fluid, and really we see in the amount of energy. Dry fasting in a particular goes in the direction of the increase of metabolism and then more energy. All the people who testify that they made the fasting, for example, by drinking water, fasting with water, for me, except that the quantity of water is very limited, it is we have to be careful about it. So in dry fasting you can add an amount of water, but a specific amount of water. So one of the key for weight loss, fat loss, energy and metabolism is the fasting. It's really obvious to do it. So I hope that this video will help you in your process, in your health, in the way you want to improve your health. And so don't hesitate to ask your question, but please be careful. The fasting is not also done for everyone, depends of your condition, and you have to get the approval of your therapist or doctor, because this is not a game adventure. Okay, so I wish you a good regeneration. We will meet again next week for another theme, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. I remind you that if you want a free diagnostic call to talk about your situation, what you are living right now, and what are your goals in your life, you can take this free call clicking on the link below the video. So I see you next week, and have a really wonderful day, and don't forget, take care of yourself. This is the most important. Bye bye. Namaste.